I never expected a wedding to feel like a crime scene. I was sitting quietly, holding my 5-year-old grandson Ethan's hand, at my son Mark's second wedding, thinking it would be just another family celebration. But then he gripped my hand tighter than ever, his tiny knuckles white, and whispered, "Grandma. I want to leave now." I froze. My mind raced. Why would a cheerful, excited little boy want to run away from a wedding? Weddings were supposed to be happy, full of laughter, cake, and music. Not fear. Not trembling. But before we continue, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell for updates. I looked at him closely. His legs were pulled up under the chair, his little shoulders shaking. "Ethan," I asked gently, trying not to alarm him, "what's wrong?" He avoided my eyes and murmured, almost too softly to hear, "Haven't you looked under the table?" My stomach twisted. Under the table? What could possibly be under a table at a wedding that frightened a child? My mind immediately imagined every possible nightmare, from something innocuous like a dropped utensil to something far worse. The wedding hall was filled with bright lights, smiling guests, and soft classical music. Yet right there, under that perfectly arranged tablecloth, I sensed something dark. Ethan's small hand gripped mine like a lifeline. I glanced around. Everyone else was laughing, unaware. Mark, my 35-year-old son, looked proud, standing next to his new bride Clara, who was 32 and breathtaking in her white gown. Everything seemed perfect, and yet Ethan's unease pulled me into a hidden tension I couldn't ignore. Why did he see what no adult did? What was hiding under that table? My mind raced. I remembered the little things I had noticed earlier. The way Clara kept checking her phone, the subtle frown Mark wore when no one was looking, the faint shadow under the table that shifted when no one was paying attention. Could Ethan really be seeing something important? Something dangerous? I swallowed hard and leaned closer to him. "Ethan, tell me what you mean," I whispered. His eyes were wide, filled with fear, but also urgency. "Grandma, look, under the table," he said, trembling. My heart thudded in my chest. And just like that, the ordinary wedding transformed into a mystery I wasn't prepared for. The question hung in the air, heavy and suffocating: what was hiding under the table? And why did my grandson see it first? I took a deep breath, my curiosity fighting with my fear. But what came next would change everything, and no one saw it coming. Ethan's small hand squeezed mine again, and I felt a chill crawl up my spine. "Grandma. I don't like it." I saw him. "Under the table," he whispered, his voice barely audible over the wedding music. My heart skipped a beat. I glanced around the hall. Guests laughed and clinked glasses, completely oblivious. How could a 5-year-old see something adults didn't? And why did he look like he had seen a ghost? I knelt slightly, leaning closer to him. "Ethan, who? What did you see?" He shook his head and pressed closer to me, mumbling, "He said I shouldn't tell anyone, but Grandma." His words trailed off, leaving me with more questions than answers. My mind immediately started spinning. Who could he be? And why would a child feel compelled to hide something so important? The wedding scene around us couldn't have been more ordinary. Mark stood tall in a navy suit, holding Clara's hand, smiling at the guests. Laughter floated through the room, the clinking of champagne glasses creating a cheerful rhythm. But Ethan's fear made me see everything differently. The tablecloth that had looked perfectly arranged moments ago now seemed to hide something sinister. The chair near us was slightly shifted, almost like someone had moved it in a hurry. Shadows danced in ways that didn't make sense under the soft chandelier light. I asked Ethan to explain, and he pointed a tiny finger at the corner of the table. "He's there, under the table. Don't let him see you," he warned, voice quivering. I swallowed hard, my curiosity battling with fear. My mind raced. Could it be a prank? Or was there really someone, or something, lurking beneath, watching us silently? I tried to distract myself, looking around at the guests. Clara smiled at a cousin, but her eyes flicked nervously toward us. Mark didn't notice Ethan's unease, or maybe he chose not to. I thought back to the small inconsistencies I had seen earlier. The shadow under the table, the slight rustling that didn't match the music, the way Ethan's tiny body had stiffened the moment he walked into the hall. Something wasn't right, and it was growing heavier by the second. I whispered back to Ethan, "Okay, let's see." Together. His hand trembled in mine, but he nodded. I leaned closer, careful not to alert anyone, and peered under the tablecloth. What I saw made my stomach drop. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. My mind screamed for answers, but all I could do was stare. And just as I reached out to grab it, footsteps approached. Someone was coming. And that someone wasn't looking to play nice. I froze as the footsteps drew closer, my hand hovering over the object under the table. My pulse pounded in my ears. The dim shadows beneath the tablecloth twisted and shifted, and I could barely make out the shape, a small, crumpled envelope with something dark inside. Ethan whimpered beside me, his tiny hand clutching mine like it could keep the world from collapsing. "Grandma, don't let him see it," he breathed, voice trembling. I swallowed hard. What could possibly be inside this envelope that terrified a 5-year-old so much? My mind flashed back to the hints I'd noticed earlier, Clara glancing at her phone with a sharp frown, Mark's subtle tension as he laughed with relatives, the way the tablecloth had seemed just a little too heavy on one side. Suddenly, all these tiny, seemingly insignificant details felt like pieces of a puzzle I wasn't supposed to see. Summoning every ounce of courage, I carefully lifted the envelope. It was heavier than I expected, almost deliberate in its concealment. Ethan's eyes were wide, pleading, as if he could sense the gravity of what I was about to uncover. I slowly opened it, and froze. Inside were photographs, folded in a way that suggested secrecy. Faces blurred but familiar. Shadows and glimpses of things I couldn't yet understand. It was evidence. Proof. And I realized in that instant that the child beside me had seen what no adult had, a secret someone had tried to bury. Ethan whispered again, barely audible, "I told him I'd tell you, but he said not to." "Grandma, you can't let him know I saw." My stomach churned. My grandson was protecting someone, or maybe he was warning me. I didn't know which was scarier. The room around us hummed with wedding cheer, but down here, under the table, time seemed to stop. It was just me, Ethan, and the envelope that held a truth no one else could guess. I debated whether to reach out, confront Mark or Clara, or just stay hidden. Every instinct screamed at me, danger, betrayal, fear. But my curiosity, and the desperate, terrified gaze of my grandson, overrode everything. I took a deep breath, preparing to lift the evidence fully into view. And then I heard it. A soft clearing of a throat above me. A shadow fell across the tablecloth. Someone was looking. Someone knew I was down here. And that's when I realized they weren't going to let me see it without consequences. The shadow stretched across the table as I slowly lifted my head. Mark's tall frame loomed above me, his expression unreadable, a mix of confusion and something sharper, suspicion. "Mom, what are you doing down there?" His voice was calm, almost casual, but the way he looked at me made my stomach twist. Ethan buried his face in my shoulder, trembling, as if my son's presence alone could make this nightmare worse. I hesitated. The envelope was still clutched in my hand. My mind raced. Should I hand it over? Should I confront him? Or should I protect Ethan and retreat? But before I could decide, Ethan tugged at my sleeve, whispering, "Grandma, he told me not to, but I saw everything." I looked at him and realized the truth. My grandson's fear wasn't childish imagination. He had seen someone hiding something that could destroy the fragile calm of this wedding. And now, with Mark standing above us, the tension crackled in the air like a storm waiting to break. Clara appeared then, gliding toward us in her white gown. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. There was a cold calculation there that made me shiver. Mark didn't notice, or perhaps chose not to acknowledge. the silent warning in her glance. The hall around us continued to celebrate, unaware of the quiet hurricane unfolding under one table. I slowly opened the envelope fully. Inside were photographs and folded notes, evidence of Clara's past deception. Secrets that, if revealed, would upend the wedding, the family, and even Ethan's innocence. My hand shook as I held the proof, realizing the magnitude of what Ethan had sensed. He hadn't just been scared. He had been protecting us, or at least warning us, from the truth no one else was brave enough to face. Mark leaned down slightly, trying to peer, and I barely whispered, "You need to see this, but not here." His brow furrowed, and I could see the first glimmer of worry. And then Clara reached out, her smile never faltering, but her hand brushing lightly against the table, as if testing the boundaries of control. My heart pounded. This wasn't just a wedding anymore. It was a battlefield of secrets. Ethan clung to me tighter, whispering, "Grandma, she knows we saw it." My blood ran cold. I realized then that the wedding wasn't just masking happiness, it was hiding something darker, something dangerous. And we were trapped in the middle of it. And just like that, everything changed. The hall around us continued to buzz with laughter and clinking glasses, but under that table, time seemed to slow to a crawl. I held the envelope in my trembling hands, Ethan pressed close against me, and the truth lay bare between us. Clara's smile never wavered, but now it felt sinister, rehearsed. Mark's eyes darted between us, trying to piece together what we had uncovered. And I realized, in that moment, the wedding facade had completely shattered. The envelope contained everything, a series of photographs and notes revealing Clara's hidden betrayal, carefully concealed from everyone, including Mark. It explained why Ethan had been terrified, why he had insisted I look under the table. The child's instinct had seen what adults ignored. My grandson had been the first to spot the deception that no one else could recognize. And suddenly, the innocence of his little hand clinging to mine felt like a shield, protecting not just him, but all of us from blindly stepping into a trap. I looked at Mark. "You need to know this, before it's too late," I whispered. His face went pale as he realized the extent of the betrayal. Clara's eyes, sharp and calculating, never left us, and I could feel the tension tightening like a noose around the room. The wedding, the celebration, even the joy we thought we felt, it had all been a carefully constructed illusion. Ethan peered up at me with wide, fearful eyes, and I hugged him close. "See?" I murmured. "You were right. You always see things first." His lips quivered, but there was relief there too. Somehow, in his childlike honesty, he had forced the truth into the light. And yet, the danger wasn't over. This revelation had set events in motion that none of us could predict. I finally understood what he had been trying to protect us from all along. Sometimes, children notice things that adults are blind to. Sometimes, a tiny voice can reveal the secrets that everyone else is too busy to see. And as we slowly stood, the envelope clutched between us, I realized something chilling. Knowing the truth didn't make us safe. It only made us aware. The wedding carried on around us, oblivious. But we knew. And now, there was no turning back. The question lingered, heavy and unshakable, what would we do with the truth, and who would pay the price for it? If you've ever uncovered a family secret you weren't ready for, or felt a child's warning that changed everything, you know the weight of that moment. Tell us your story in the comments, and subscribe to uncover more unbelievable tales that hide in plain sight.